Who we got with us today?
Paula from Florissant, Missouri.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, Miss Paula.
I grew up in North County, Florissant, Barrington Downs. Um, Dealt with Ferguson, Jennings, Berkeley, um, until I was about 16 years old, and that's when I was introduced to the west side of St. Louis.
How long ago were you introduced to the West Side?
Um, I was about 15 or 16.
Who introduced you to the West Side?
My ex-boyfriend was named Deuce Englewood Blood. He hung out on the shoot, the horseshoe.
So you've been on the West Side ever since?
Mm-hmm.
What schools did you go to?
I went to school in the county. I went to Hazelwood elementary schools, middle schools. I've lived, and I lived on the south side in second grade. I went Compton and Keokuk. Middle school, Hazelwood West, Rittner. High school, McClure, Hazelwood West. All Ferguson, Florissant, Hazelwood.
Did you graduate?
No. 10th grade.
Where did life take you after leaving school in the 10th grade? What did you do?
Automatically got a job. Never got my GED, never went to college. Got a lot of qualifications, CNA certified, MedTech certified, forklift certified, gas stations, nursing homes. Took me, actually I was in going into high school, and I was introduced to heroin, 14 years old.
Introduced to heroin at 14? Who introduced you to that?
Group of friends that I hung out with, older.
Would you call those friends introducing you to such a toxic poison?
No, not now. Oh, well, I mean, actually, yeah, they were friends. I mean, but they were a little older, and I lied about my age, to hang out, and it was kind of more of a want to fit in and not want to seem, young as I was, so I didn't ask questions. And by the time I figured out what really was going on, they were my group of friends for years before that, but it hit my group of friends. And by the time I really even figured out what it was, I was already addicted to it. It only takes like 4, 5, 6 days, and I'm a month, 2 months, 3 months in. So.
Where did life take you at that point?
I did it 16 years, functioning addict. I had a car, I had a house, I snorted it. When fentanyl, no. Actually, when tar phased out in China, it became a little bit more serious. The habits worse. You have to have more. And it became harder to keep a job. Make sure that you have everything that you need every morning to be able to wake up and go through work the entire day. And it just kind of went from there. And then towards the end of China White and to the beginning of the introduction of fentanyl, I switched to shooting, mainlining. And for 16 years, snorting it, I was a functioning addict. I could go to work, I could do everything. 4 years into shooting, I couldn't go to work, I couldn't keep a job. What
was the difference?
The intensity and the quickness of the sickness following. When you snort, it's not, your sickness doesn't hit as quickly. You snort and you have something with what they call legs. And when you wake up in the morning, you have an hour to 2 hours maybe, to get out and hustle, or you do whatever to find some money to get something to keep you, good for the day. When you start shooting up, it wakes you up out of your sleep when you're sick, you know what I'm saying? So if you don't have it, you're automatically on the hustle to find it. And if you, have a bad day, or you don't hustle, you don't make enough money, you can't go to work because you're sick, So it became harder and harder to maintain a job, get up every day, always having something, having enough. When you mainline or shoot, it wears out faster because it goes straight to your bloodstream. So before, when you were snorting, you could they had what you had called forests. They were $25, and you could put dormant on it, and it would last you all day. Now with China White and you're shooting, You know, you get so high, it's so intense, you fall asleep for 3 or 4 hours. When you wake up, you're sick again. You know what I'm saying? Like you haven't done anything. So now you're having to constantly almost hustle, you know, because you have to have it 3 or 4 different times a day, you know, and it becomes to the point where you are unable to keep a full-time job, part-time job, because, you know, you have to have all day to go out and get it multiple times a day to be able to carry through. And the more you do and the longer you do it, the more intense it gets. The bigger your tolerance gets, the more you have to have, the more times a day you have to have it, you know what I'm saying? And when fentanyl hit, it was synthetic, it was completely different, and it was extremely powerful. It's not an opiate, so it is completely different, stronger. Killed me the first 3 times I did it, and they had to Narcan me to bring me back. But it was kind of like in St. Louis, it was in phases. It started out as tar heroin. There was a big drought and China White flooded the streets, and then all of a sudden China White phased out and fentanyl hit, and it was almost impossible to get anything without it. So, you know, and then the potency of it when it hit, because it's a different, you know, sickness, it's also a different intensity. So what you do with China White, you could do a 45 cc shot and be okay. Fentanyl, you do a 10 cc shot, you kill yourself. You know what I'm saying? Fentanyl also does not have what they call legs. It lasts 2 to 3 hours for it, the very, very most. You know, so and you become extremely sick, extremely quick. So now, you know, you're going maybe 4 or 5 times a day all the way through to get fentanyl, you know, every 3 to 4 hours a day. You have to have it, you know what I'm saying? And you're getting sick. So basically, you get it, and then, you know, you're high for maybe an hour or two, and you're getting ready to get into that 3 or 4 hour range where you're going to start getting sick again. So you have to start hustling again. Then you get it, and you get high for an hour or two, and you have to start hustling again to get it again. You know what I'm saying? So, and it was extremely strong at first. It killed all of my friends, basically. Me, I was never a greedy person. I enjoyed the high. I wasn't, you know, so I didn't, luckily lose my life to it. If Narcan wasn't around, I would have died to it when I first started doing it. And it got to the point where it was unattainable. You know, it was unrealistic to keep up shooting it the way that I did. So I went back to snorting. And I've been back to that now for about 5 or 6 years. In total, I'm going on 26 years as a heroin addict. I'm also now addicted to crack cocaine for probably 4 or 5 years. But it's not a physical, so it's, you know, it's addiction. It's not an addiction, you know. But the need for it and the fact of not being able to, I've been homeless for 15 years. I can't keep a job when I have to hustle every 2 to 3 or 4 hours a day, every day, to continue to get it. So you end up on the street, you end up homeless, you end up, you know, you can't have a job if you're homeless, you don't have a place to bathe, you don't have a place to give clean clothes, you don't have transportation to work, because all of your money and your time goes into your addiction. So I have been living in and out of vacant houses for 15 years, 12 to 15 years. I'm a survivor, so I've taught myself how to install illegal electricity. I can turn water back on. I can, you know, and I've lived this way. It's harder. It's, you know, it's a stressful life. I also, you know, like I said, can't keep a real job. So you end up in the street. Luckily, I've dabbled in prostitution, but I haven't really had to fully jump into it. Luckily, because I have the skill set that I have, the 16 years that I was a functioning addict. I worked at gas stations, I worked with large amount of cash, I worked in casinos, I worked at nursing homes. I'm CNA certified, I'm MedTech certified, I'm forklift certified. You know, so I have skills. I'm very good with technology. I can hook up security systems, computers, tablets, laptops. I do lawn care service. I rehab houses. I demolition houses. I clean out vacant houses. You know, it's just a choice. Are you willing to do the strenuous labor to get the money, or do you succumb to the easiness of a life of prostitution? Sometimes it's unavoidable, you know, there's not always a cash paying job that you can do to avoid it. So luckily I haven't had to succumb to a full-time life of that as employment. But it takes a toll, you know, living the way that you live. So it's hard to prioritize what it would take to get you back to a normal life. You know what I'm saying? Transportation, money. You know, when you don't work and you don't have a paycheck, everything that you do, you have to pay. You have to eat. You have to pay. You have to get high. You have to pay. You have to hygiene. You have to pay. You know, so it's like you go to being in the streets every day, hustling for whatever is the, you know, means of the easiest, the simplest way of getting the money that you need, you know. So I've fought and chose not to come to the laziness that is involved with just not, you know, saying fuck it. And I mean, like I said, if it comes down to a necessity, you know, it's a necessity. But luckily, like I said, I went back to snorting it, so it's not such an intense high. But then I added cocaine on top of it, so that was kind of like a, you know, a trade for the same thing. And so, but it also keeps you, snorting it keeps the intensity of it down. So you have the option to not have to constantly, you know, go into prostitution to make the quick money for drugs and stuff like that. And you also, with being able to still do like actual jobs, you can afford to smoke cigarettes and wash your clothes and, you know, stuff like that. A lot of people don't choose to do all of that, but I do. And I was in a long-term relationship with a person that I just recently got out of. That's what brought me down here. I was with him for 24 years. And
That's the guy that introduced you to the West Side.
no, it was a different one. This is the one that I met while that one was in prison. I was already coming to the West Side, and he was on the West Side. Okay, so I stayed down here because of him. When I met him, he was fully functional. He got high, but he had a job, he had a car, he had, you know what I'm saying. Life has been what it's been, and for like the last 15 years, I've carried him financially completely. I pay for his drugs, I pay for his clothes, I pay for his shoes, I pay for his food, I pay for everything. He lays around, does nothing, he's abusive, stuff like that. But I mean, when you've been with someone for more than half your life, you know, it's hard to just leave it alone. So I've had to, you know, I work very hard, you know what I'm saying, because I'm not just taking care of myself. I recently left him, so it's getting a little easier, but I'm on the road to trying to normalize my life as much as I can. I have no identification right now, which is why I'm still in the street. I have no job. But like I said, you know, it's almost impossible. This is why it doesn't work when you take a homeless person and you give them a job and you just throw them in it. You know, it doesn't work. If you don't have no home life stability, you don't have a place to wake up every day and eat and make sure you have clean clothes and make sure you have money and make sure you have, you know what I'm saying? So it makes it harder, but I'm still trying. I just turned 40 in January, so I'm slowly stripping the negative things away, you know, but where I am in life right now, you know, it took me 25 years to get it this fucked up, you know, so it's like it takes a while to do it, but you have to have the will, you know. St. Louis is very quick money, hustle oriented, you know what I'm saying? So if you're a hustle type person in the streets, you get addicted to that kind of lifestyle. It's almost like a drug dealer, you know, and it becomes to the point where you don't really want to put forth the effort to have a regular job, you know. I can go out here and clean a house, you know, it takes me maybe 35 minutes, 45 minutes, and I get paid $100. you know, so instead of being at a regular job for 8 hours a day and I make, you know, $240, you know, it's like, so, I mean, but it's a choice. So right now I'm kind of really unstable. I'm bouncing around and stuff like that because I left him, and he was kind of this stability that I had. The place that we lived and everything else is basically was his, you know, area. So I'm kind of bouncing around. I haven't been, you know, so bad that I've had to sleep on the streets. I mean, I've in my life had to, but not now. But other than that, that is how I ended up where I am.
Is getting clean an option at this point? And have you ever attempted to get clean?
I've been clean. When it was tar and China White, it was a withdrawal period of 72 hours. And it's a really fucked up 3 days, 4 days, you know, it carries into a fourth day, kind of. Fentanyl changed all that. Fentanyl sickness lasts for close to 2 months. And the only thing, you can't take Suboxone until you've done 5 days worth of detox. And, you know, they only have 4-day detox in St. Louis because it used to be 72-hour period. So 4 days, you were a day out of it already. Fentanyl, if you choose to do the detox way, you go in there and you get dog fucking sick for 4 days, and then on your the fourth night they release you into the, you know, public, and you're supposed to stay sick and remain until you get up the fifth morning, and then you can go to a pharmacy and, you know, fill your Suboxone, and then you can take it. That has a very, very low success rate. So the only thing that you can go directly to that I've heard is methadone. I've never been a fan of methadone. I've never taken it. I've heard it's worse than a heroin addiction. So they make it very difficult for you to get clean, especially in St. Louis. St. Louis has very, very limited female interaction. I don't have any. Anyways, I don't have the option of rehab right now. It is, if it's not court ordered, it's very expensive, or it's government funded, and they have, especially for females, wait lists of years, you know, for beds. So no, it's not really an achievable option, really short term, if you're trying to get yourself together. I mean, there's always that option. I mean, you can always do the hard stuff and you know what I'm saying, take that road, but it makes it very, very difficult to succeed in other parts of your lifestyle if you're trying to detox and live a clean life and get your life back on track. And you know, it's not really logical, you know. I mean, it makes it really, really hard. It's already really, really hard, you know what I'm saying. The only thing that comes out of it, I mean, if you do that, it's a harder fight, but they do have a lot of help, rent assistance, free sober living. A lot of sober living is not free, it's very expensive. So, and like I said, rehab, just the beginning part of it, if you are not court ordered or you are not able to pay, you know, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 cash up front for a bed, you have to be put on a list for a government bed. And like I said, there's year plus waits, especially for females. So you basically run the option of, you know, the 4-day detox and being extremely sick, and then taking the Suboxones, and then you're trying to do that and find a job and keep yourself, you know. So it's not a very feasible option, you know. I mean, it's an option, but it's not. They make it extremely difficult to succeed that way, you know. So most people that you know, nowadays with this fentanyl epidemic, can mostly choose to just try to continue to be an addict while they get their life back together. And you know, they will make whatever arrangements they have to, or plans that they have to wear. You know, they'll try to wean themselves down off of it or whatever on their own as much as they can, and eventually, you know, they'll come. But with the opiate, you know, epidemic and the high relapse rate, You know, people actually, I think now more are just addicts that are, you know, getting normalcy back to their life because they make it so hard here. It's kind of like it would make it twice as hard on you to try to do the right thing to do it that way. It's just easier to stay an addict and get a job and, you know, try to function normally and still have to carry that. I've been getting high since 1998. I don't think I've got high off this shit since 2008. You know what I'm saying? It becomes a matter of just basically functioning. You have to have it to function. You will be sick if you don't. So you wean yourself down as low as possible. You get as much as you need to have to function daily, and then you try to put back as much normalcy to your life as you can. It's basically your option.
In closing, Ms. Paula, if there's anything you want to say that you haven't said to anybody or
Do not ever do heroin if you've never done it. That's it.
We appreciate you, Ms. Paula.
Thank you.
Thank you.